Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Nearly 40 years ago today, Jess Walton made her Young and Restless debut as Jill, and neither Genoa City nor we were ever the same again. When 1987 began, Jess Walton was riding high, playing a former prostitute named Kelly Harper on CBS political Sudzer Capital. She'd been there for 3 years, and life couldn't have been better. Then in March of 1987, the show was axed, and Walton was out of a job, and for that, all we can say is, thank God. The Young and the Restless, it turned out, was looking for someone new to play Jill Foster Abbott. The pivotal role Brenda Dixon had originated 14 years earlier, before passing it to Bond Gideon and Deborah Adair, later Kate, Days of Our Lives. The show hired the newly available Walton, who stepped into the role on June 22, 1987. Honestly, though, we weren't entirely sure what to expect from the latest Jill. How long was she even going to stick around? Looking back, we now know that we should have expected everything. That's exactly what Walton's given us for the past 3+ decades, as she's taken one of Genoa City's original residents and made her irrevocably her own. By 1987, Jill had been through 5 marriages, was knee-deep in one of Daytime's greatest feuds, Hey, Katherine, and had already schemed her way up from a manicurist to a titan of business. There was, in other words, plenty for Walton to dig her nails into. And there were plenty of men for Jill to do the same with, though Jill's only been married 3 times in the past 34 years, to Rex Sterling, John Abbott and that irredeemable scoundrel Colin Atkinson. It's safe to say that she's bedded half of Genoa City. At least half. And that's something the late, great Gene Cooper, Katherine, loved to remind everyone of. In an interview with on-screen son Jason Thompson, Billy, Walton fondly recalled with a laugh that Cooper would insult me. We'd go out on the road together on public appearances, and she would say, I had to bring the slut along. Over the years, Walton and Cooper reveled in taking Katherine and Jill's feud to new heights. Remember when Jill almost choked Kay to death in the attic, to the point that Walton marveled to Thompson that they were like a super couple. And they delighted in tackling their relationship's ever-changing challenges, like when Jill discovered she was actually Katherine's long-lost daughter, until we found out she was actually Lauren's long-lost sister, because why not? But that's something Walton has always wowed us with, her ability to play the woman beneath the witchiness. As much of a schemer as Jill could be, her portrayer ensured that she was never one note, and nothing trumped her love for her family, even when that family was her archenemy. We watched Jill mourn son Philip, then go through the shock of finding out he was not only alive but that he'd faked his death because he was struggling with coming out as gay. She became a mother to Philip's stand-in Kane and a grandmother to his children, holding on to that love even after learning he wasn't her long-lost Aussie son. And Jill's always been there to support Billy no matter how many times he screwing up, after all, is something Jill understands very, very well. A few years back on Marie, Walton referred to Jill as Wally Coyote. Jill keeps getting anvils dropped on her head, the actress cheekily explained. She gets these schemes, and she gets all excited. She brags to the whole town she's marrying Victor Newman, and then he breaks up with her on the day he's supposed to be proposing. And she gets smashed again. But like Wally Coyote, Jill always comes back. And though she only stops into Genoa City from time to time these days too, we can rest easy knowing that every time she leaves, it's only a matter of time before she'll come back. It was the summer of 1987. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, Bon Jovi ruled the airwaves, and shoulder pads were a serious fashion statement. And on The Young and the Restless, a legacy was being born, one that would shape the next 4 decades of daytime drama in indelible ways. Into the high society war zone of Genoa City stepped a woman with fire in her eyes, wit in her voice, and steel in her spine, Jess Walton, stepping into the role of the already iconic Jill Foster Abbott. Though Jill had been on the canvas since 1973. It wasn't until Walton's arrival that the character crystallized into the soap opera titan we know today, seductive, ruthless, vulnerable, and endlessly captivating. She wasn't just a gold digger or a bad girl, she was the bad girl you rooted for, the villainess with a heart you couldn't help but love. And Jess Walton, with her dazzling presence and dramatic depth, didn't just play the role. She defined it. Chapter 1, taking over a legend. When Jess Walton debuted as Jill on June 26, 1987, she was stepping into a role previously made famous by Brenda Dixon, who had portrayed the character off and on since the early 70s. Dixon had become a fan favorite, known for her bombastic flair and campy cattiness, making the recast a daunting gamble. But Jess didn't mimic her predecessor, she transformed Jill. She stripped the caricature from the character and infused her with a raw, relatable hunger. Her Jill was still glamorous, still sharp-tongued, but more grounded, more complex. She wasn't just scheming to snag a rich husband, though she certainly did that, she was also a woman fighting for her place in a world that kept trying to push her back down. Within months, viewers stopped comparing Jess to Brenda. Instead, they began comparing every other soap vixen to Jess. Chapter 2. From manicurist to mogul, Jill Foster's journey was always the stuff of soap opera legend, a rags-to-riches story fueled by ambition and audacity. Born into humble beginnings, Jill clawed her way up, first as a manicurist in Katherine Chancellor's mansion, and eventually as a businesswoman, socialite, and Abbott matriarch, but under Jess Walton's tenure, that climb gained new layers. She captured Jill's vulnerability, the deep insecurities and childhood wounds that drove her obsession with power and validation. She also brought empathy to Jill's failures. Whether she was betraying Katherine or being betrayed by one of her many lovers, Jess portrayed Jill as a woman who refused to be defined by her mistakes. She was fiercely maternal, particularly in scenes with Philip and later Billy, and tragically impulsive. Her love life was a hurricane. Her corporate moves were legendary. And somehow, Walton made it all feel real. Chapter 3, a rivalry for the ages, Jill versus Katherine. If Jess Walton's Jill was a force of nature, then her eternal opponent was the immovable object, Jean Cooper's Katherine Chancellor. Their dynamic wasn't just soap gold. It was daytime royalty. Their decade-spanning rivalry was Shakespearean in its intensity. They loved to hate each other. They hated to love each other. They hurled insults, wigs, and the occasional vase. They even married the same man, multiple times. And yet, beneath the hatred, there was a twisted sisterhood. Neither could shake. Walton and Cooper had electric chemistry. Their scenes were operatic yet intimate, filled with venomous banter and tear-streaked truths. Jess once said that she never rehearsed much with Jean, they simply trusted each other completely. And that trust translated into scenes that felt as volatile and unpredictable as real life. When Jean passed away in 2013, Jess was one of the few who could properly honor her legacy, because she was half of it. Chapter 4, the many men of Jill Foster. Abbott soap opera fans are used to tangled love lives, but Jill's may be one of the most convoluted and compelling in daytime history. Over the years, Jess Walton's Jill has been paired with a roster of Genoa City's most powerful, problematic, and passionate men. There was John Abbott, the wealthy patriarch who gave her her name, her son Billy, and plenty of grief. There was Victor Newman, whose heart she nearly captured. And let's not forget Jack Abbott, with whom Jill shared a spark that fans still revisit on YouTube. Then came Colin Atkinson, the Australian con artist who both thrilled and infuriated her. Walton brought a sultry, mature confidence to those scenes. Jill was no longer a girl chasing princes. She was a woman who could take a lover on her own terms, and through all the romances, breakups, blackmail plots, and drunken makeout sessions, Walton kept Jill believable, flawed but fearless. Chapter 5, the real Jess Walton. Off-screen, Jess Walton has remained a class act, respected by colleagues, adored by fans, and admired for her honesty. She took a step back from full-time status years ago but has returned repeatedly for pivotal storylines, always bringing a shot of adrenaline to the show. Walton has spoken candidly about her life, including her challenges, her marriage, and her journey through grief after her husband's passing. Like Jill, she's strong, spirited, and endlessly engaging. In interviews, Jess often jokes about Jill's high-drama antics but is quick to defend the character's heart. Jill has always been misunderstood, she once said. She's not just about money or power. She's about proving she matters. Chapter 6, an icon for the ages. Jill Foster Abbott has become more than a character. She's a cultural institution. And Jess Walton? She's her architect. What Jess brought to Jill, and to the young and the restless, is something rare: longevity with evolution. Too often, soap characters become parodies of themselves. But under Walton's watch, Jill has grown, shifted, stumbled, and soared. She's a mother, a businesswoman, a rival, a survivor. Her most iconic moments, so far, to truly appreciate Jess Walton's impact, just revisit these unforgettable Jill moments: the Katherine showdown in the attic. Who could forget the iconic slapfest that ended with both women locked in a storage space and forced to talk? Finding out Billy was her son, a reveal decades in the making, and Walton delivered the emotional gut punch like only she could. Seducing Jack, sexy, complicated, scandalous, and deliciously entertaining. The Colin wedding. Watching Jill get scammed again was painful, but watching her realize it and fight back? Soap Nirvana. Katherine's funeral. Walton's performance was both a tribute to her scene partner and a masterclass in restrained grief. Chapter 8, Jill today and tomorrow. Jill may not be on screen as often these days, but when she does show up, it's a game changer. Whether she's sweeping into the Chancellor Winter's boardroom or showing up at Billy's door with tough love and sass, Jill remains a force. She represents continuity, history, and, let's be honest, a serious threat to anyone who crosses her, with Walton hinting that she's always open to more visits. And the show seemingly always keeping a space for her in its heart, fans still hold out hope for a juicy Jill-centric arc, a corporate takeover, a surprise grandchild, maybe even another romance epilogue. The legacy lives on 40 years is a long time. Long enough to raise kids, build empires, bury enemies, and rise again. Jess Walton didn't just inherit a character when she became Jill, she reimagined her. And in doing so, she redefined what it meant to be a leading lady in daytime. She made us laugh, cry, yell at our TVs, and cheer. She made soap history. And she made it look effortless. So here's to Jess Walton. Nearly 4 decades after her first dramatic entrance, she's still the grande dame of Genoa City. Still the woman who can steal a scene with a glare, a sigh, or a single withering word, and still, always, our Jill.